Hey, hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and here's part 2 of this video. I am trying to become a reformed African violet murderer. I don't want this one to die. I want to be able to keep it alive and be able to finally successfully grow African violets. So I'm going to, kind of follow my theory that if I use, whatever I have available and don't go out of my way to, over care for this plant, and I just make sure that it's healthy, but I don't completely just pester it all the time. If I don't become a helicopter mom, if I don't just become an aggressive parent with it that is just always in its face all the time, maybe I can actually do it well. I just feel like I make everything too complicated. So I'm only going to be using a tiny little bit of this Miracle-Gro all-purpose fertilizer because I'm not going out specifically to buy specific African violet plant potting mix and African violet plant food unless I discover that it really needs it. But for now, I'm just going to try to use what I have and what's available. So I'm only going to use a tiny bit, not even a full scoop, because I'm only mixing 1 cup of this plant food, of this fertilizer. Normally, I would use my gallon watering can and just add 1 full small scoop. Just want to make sure it's completely dissolved. Now that I've done that, one trick that I have when I mix potting mixes together, and I just want to show you what I've thrown together here. It's just a mixture of peat moss and perlite. I might add a little bit more perlite if I decide to after I add the plant food to this soil. But what I basically want to do is I just want to make sure it's a nice simple mix. Now, like I said in the previous part, one of my theories was if I just make a really simple mix with as few ingredients as possible, I'd probably have a perfect mix for growing African violets. Not to hate on the Optimera mix, but I've just found that it gets very crusty on top, and that it it quickly shrinks away from the root ball. That's the main issue that I've had with that. But I don't hate it. I just don't think it's. I think I might want to try my own mix here. So I have this mix that I've thrown together, and I want to make a mix that's similar to what they would have had to make in the 70s/80s when these were really popular, because they didn't really have too many options as to what to pot their plants in. It was just, peat moss and possibly perlite, if that was available, or maybe a bag of potting soil or whatever. But really from what I've read, it was mainly just peat moss with maybe 1 or 2 additives. And so I'm just going to be simple about this. And normally I would just take a small amount of this, however much I felt like I needed, and put it in a smaller container before I added the plant food, just because I'm kind of OCD about plant food. I'm not one to waste soil. So basically what I don't want to do is I don't want to make a batch of soil and then add one type of plant food to it, and then later on for another type of plant that I use another different type of plant food for, have to make a whole new batch of potting soil just for that specific plant. So I'd make a batch and then save whatever's left over, take a small amount that I wanted to add food to, and then use that, just so that I'm not adding the wrong type of plant food. Even though I'm pretty sure that some of my plant foods are interchangeable, I'm just kind of, it's one of my little pet peeves. We all have those ridiculous little pet peeves. But I'm just going to use the all-purpose plant food for this, and since I'm also going to be repotting my peperomias in a similar mix, I'll just whatever's left I can use for those, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to use the rest of it, because I'm planning on using one of my big pots for both of my Clucifolia jelly peperomias, and a smaller pot for my caparata. But my main focus is my African violet right now. So I think this mix feels pretty light right now, and I think that's exactly what it needs, because I decided that a plant that is so prone to crown rot and root rot, if that's its biggest enemy, I'd rather be safe than sorry. If there's too much perlite in here for your liking, or than what people normally use, I think it's a much better solution to have too much than not enough. I think I want to be on the safe side for right now. So I think this is actually a pretty good mix, though, and it's got some nutrition in it, because not only am I adding this Miracle-Gro liquid plant food that I find absolutely great, in all of my past experiences with any sort of like houseplant, if I run out of succulent plant food or if I run out of like flowering plant food, I just use this stuff and it works just the same. Well, not just the same, but it works so well that it's a great substitute. And if you don't want to spend a lot of money on a whole bunch of different types of plant foods, go ahead and just get this stuff, and it will work very well for anything. I love Miracle-Gro plant foods. Anyways, so I got this nice and not too moist, but slightly damp, and I think I'm just going to do a mold potting, which is where you just, kind of compensate for the lack of the space between how big this pot is and how big this one is. So you add soil at the bottom, and then you just replant it and add soil around it. Yeah, I think that's what I'll do, because I've heard that's the safest option. And I think the first thing I'll do is add a layer of rocks in the bottom, just a very thin layer, just, to kind of cover the drain hole and also provide a little bit of drainage at the bottom. I hope that's the correct thing to do. Decided that this is a good enough pot as far as oh, sorry, my finger was in the way, to use for my African violet. I decided that this was a good fit, so I'm adding just a little bit of rock at the bottom, not too much, because I don't want water to collect by any means, even though I know there's a big drainage hole. And I think I'm gonna use this pot just because I decided that there still is, there's enough unglazed area to create the humidity that I need. And if not, hey, I'll just add a rock tray at the bottom. And you know what? I'll just have to be careful I'll just have to, put aside my stupid fear of, having too much water at the bottom, because you just don't fill it up all the way, and it's fine. I'm just being ridiculous. So I'm just gonna add enough of this soil, which isn't actually really soil, it's potting mix. I should get the term right, but you know what, I kind of gave up on that because it's just a habit. So I'm just gonna add some soil at the bottom. I don't want to press it down too much. I just want to make sure that it's nice and level. So I'm just gonna try to get it just to the right amount, and then what I'll do is I'll take this plant out, and I can't do that right now with my phone in the hand because I only have two hands, so one sec. I did one extra step, because one thing that I forgot to mention was that there was kind of and there's still a little bit of it left that I can show you guys. This green stuff on top, this algae that's on top, I've noticed that that's more common in mixes that contain expanded polystyrene, or as I like to call it, styrofoam. So peat moss doesn't really do, or not peat moss, perlite doesn't really do that as often. It's just more, it just kind of turns an ugly color after a while, just because it's in peat moss. So the perlite kind of gets ugly. So I just kind of took as much of that off of the top as I could. I don't want to take all of it off, just because I don't want to fiddle with the roots too much. But it is slightly root bound. I did notice that there were a few roots coming out of the drain holes, which I know is a good opportunity to repot your African violets anyways. So I'm just going to make sure that it's at the right height. I know these like to be filled kind of to the top. Maybe there's too much soil in here right now, so I'm just going to try to work quickly, because I don't want it to dry out. I'm just going to forgot about the rocks. That was kind of dumb. I kind of forgot that there were rocks in there, but that's okay. That is completely 100% okay. We'll just go ahead, be more careful, and I have to just figure this out, but you know what I'm trying to do. So she's in her new pot, and she did lose one leaf during the repotting process. It was a very small one that was underneath the big ones, which I was actually going to at some point pull that one off anyways, along with these other ones that are very small, and I just think they're taking too much energy away. So I'm just going to kind of stick my finger down here and try to snap those off cleanly at the base. Trying not to leave any part of the leaf stalk still in there. You know what, that's good enough. So then I can take that one off. Oh, great, now that piece came out. It was just kind of stuck underneath that leaf too. So yeah, because I was going to get really worked up about that. But yeah, I just want to get rid of any of the leaves that are smaller than the leaf above them, because those I know take away energy from all plants. And with a plant that is flowering this profusely, oh, I accidentally removed a big one. This is a suitable leaf for propagation, so I'll do that. So yeah, I just want to get these big, or these small, kind of puny, weak leaves out. But basically, yeah, that's all I have to say about this matter. That's all I have for you today. I don't really have anything else to say or to show you guys, because that's all I have to do for tonight. I probably won't give you a video on repotting my peperomias, because it's so simple that, you know, it's basically just the same as repotting any plant, and I don't really have a lot of space left on my phone right now just because of these 2 long videos. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish pruning this thing and leave you guys there, because, you know what, I'll film an update video at a later time when there's more action happening, maybe with some follow-up questions. But yeah, I'm going to take this leaf off too, because I think it ruins the shape of the plant. And I think that's the last one. Yeah, so there's my African violet so far. Hopefully this will be the first of many. Hopefully this will end up being a big, beautiful collection. Bye, guys. Wish me luck, and give me tips and feedback. See ya.